Hey guys and girls, Bored Now back with you. On this video I will be talking about Paper Girls episode 3, which is called Blue Tongues Never Lie, and episode 4, which was called It Was Never About the Corn. So full spoilers from the start of this review. So it's actually quite easy to review these two as a pair and to just cut across them, because the first one, episode 3, is sort of a setup episode. I mean, not a lot happens. It's mostly set up for what's to come. And then episode 4 really sort of pays some of that stuff off, and we start to get some answers. So there's two basic plots in the first of the two episodes. One involves Mac, which I'll talk about in a minute. The other involves this new character of Larry that we're introduced to. He's searching around the neighborhood. He stops at someone's door at one point, plays her a recording, kind of gives her a cryptic message, but she at first she seems willing to sort of talk to him, and then she when he doesn't say he's got food, he sort of she says, I can't talk to you if you haven't got food. And so he starts driving around looking for something. He's got the same device as the teens had, when they transported to the future. And at the same time, Erin's driving around frantically. That's adult Erin, looking for them, because she's obviously figured out how to get the thing working. And this is an important plot point which they return to later on. So she bumps into the three of the teens. Obviously Mac has gone off to find her brother, and then this guy Larry gets involved, sort of gets caught in the crosshairs, starts talking to Erin. And it's Tiffany who starts driving the car. Tiffany, who sort of comes into her own in these two episodes to try and escape. But in the end, they're caught. So that's a pretty exciting start to the episode. And Larry kidnaps them, but then he starts to explain what's going on. There's a funny scene where he questions them. He's like, what do you do? Who do you work for? And Erin, as in Ali Wong's Erin, sort of takes that as a literal sort of thing. So starts talking about the law firm she works for, which is not quite what he had in mind. But so once he realised then, they're not his enemies, they're on the level. Once they convince him that they've time travelled from the past, and they describe what happened to his friends, the two guys who were killed when they arrived there, then he obviously realises that they are innocent and they're telling the truth. So then he kind of says what's going on. He says that he represents a team called the STF, which is a wrestling move, by the way. I'm pretty sure he said STF. And that they're doing battle and trying to stop the other side of things, which are known as the old watch. Yeah, the old watch. So what he's saying is that the old watch are trying to prevent time travel because they're against new ways. They're against new ideas getting out there. They want to restore the old order of things. So this is a really nice idea. It works really well when you think about the time travel element of the show and what we've seen so far, and it just works really well. It's quite nice and simple, but it's a cool little concept. And he says then he's on the side of good. Then he's trying to stop the old order from achieving their missions, but then the old order are coming after them. And the stakes are raised through what he's saying, because he says, sorry to say, but your friend Mac is probably dead, because they would have gone after her. And he's not wrong. We see them tracking Mac throughout the episode, the sort of, I don't know if it's the leader or one of the hunters of the old watch, sort of getting clues, going to the hospital, sort of going under different guises to try and get clues, but that's the thing that's going on. And he says, yeah, unfortunately they see it as a capital offence because you're time travelled, and that's why they've come after you. Now, I will say, at this point, I'm not 100% sold that Larry is a good guy, just because he seems to be acting a bit too tense at times and a bit too like frantic, and that he's almost like overly aggressive towards the characters at times in these episodes. So also because it's still quite early, like we're only halfway through the series or this season anyway, it does make me question if Larry really can be trusted. It makes me wonder if there could be a twist in the tale where he's actually working for the wrong side of things. But anyway, yeah, the way the episode ends, episode 3, is that he takes them into like this barn, and he says, I might have a solution, and they all look up, and there's a big giant robot, sort of combine harvesting style robot, looks a bit like a transformer, and it's great. It's a great scene. It's a great way to end the episode because they all look up and you hear like the New Order Blue Monday comes on pumping along, and it's a great way. It's quite a basic short episode, but it's a great way to end it. And so things sort of start escalating from there because he tells Erin, as in adult Erin, that she's the one who can control it because she's now got the touch through what happened earlier, and that she has to control it. And you get this whole debate, which again is really good character stuff, with the teens starting to chip in and have ideas, because his idea is that like Aaron will drive the robot and it can go through time, and that it'll go back to 99. Is it 99 or 91? I think it was 99. And his plan is that there will be STF soldiers there that can meet them and help them to get home and sort of clear everything up. But I sort of like, Tiffany has some strong scenes in this episode because she has this idea of, well, why doesn't he just take us all home and then we can stop the future from there? Like we can change the future from 1988 and none of this ever needs to happen. And Larry isn't so keen on this, you know. He seems to be very unsure and he sort of just wants to do things his own way. But once again, this is a teen show. They're very active teens. Tiffany's very active in this episode, and like they talk Larry around, and that's the plan, that they're gonna go all the way back home, back to 1988, and that they can change things there. But this sort of brings stakes, as I said, because the clock is ticking. They only have like 6 hours, so Mac, if she doesn't return by then, is going to be in danger. She won't be able to come home with them, and things start to sort of escalate with certain things. You have a fun sequence where Erin is being taught by Larry how to like steer the thing, and like he questions her driving skills, so like she literally gives him the finger, like using the big hand of the machine. So that's really fun stuff. You get some other couple of nice bits with Tiffany where because she is very much the tech expert, and she shows Larry the map like of the purple thing when they went through, and he says to her then it's actually a bad thing because they like warp your mind as you go through that. But then when she says, how come we didn't have our mind warps, he can't actually give like a definite answer. And I wonder if this is just the way of the writing to cast a little bit of doubt on Larry, or if it's just something which is going to be cleared up later, like it's posing a question and it will be solved later. But there are little moments with Larry where I'm not quite trusting him 100%. I still think he could be a heel. And so there's stuff like that with Tiffany, and at the same time, Erin and KJ start plotting to go and find Mac, and like there's a little sort of trick. There's a scene where adult Erin and Larry pretend to be a couple for like the purpose of, I think Missy, like Erin's Erin's sister, who, again, it's sort of played up the two different fortunes, like how much more successful Missy has been career-wise than Erin, and she has, like, a husband and a child and all the rest of it, but there's this crucial meeting where they're supposed to be, like, selling the mother's house and sorting all that business out, and Erin, because she's caught up with all this other stuff, forgets and isn't there, so Missy calls her upset, and then there's just this whole thing where, because they're on this farm with Larry like pretends to be her boyfriend, and it's one of those really awkward but very funny scenes, because he's trying to like role play, trying to like give her quite an affectionate kiss on the cheek and stuff, and it's just really awkward because she doesn't want him to do it, but it just plays out really funny. But it again reveals some more about the characters and about Erin and the sort of tension with her and her sister, because there's this sort of neglect between them over the way the sister feels she was shut out from the last year of the mother's life. Like, she's sort of accusing Erin of being the martyr and insisting that I look after my mum, I don't need your help, and Erin on the other end is sort of accusing Missy of like just being selfish and just being pissed about the money kind of thing, but which Missy obviously denies. But so there's some good drama going on there, and Erin, as in the younger version, has to watch it like she's watched, because she's been told to hide, because of course Missy can't see her, but she's watching this, and it's quite an emotional scene. And at the same time, KJ, because they've found out the address of Mac's brother, looked it up on the internet. Some more like sort of good like tech stuff in this episode, but they've looked it up on the internet, and Mac has like snuck away and taken Larry's bike, and there's this funny sort of cut where Larry like leaves the living room, leaves like Missy and Erin, and just runs out and starts saying, "Hey, fucking stole my bike, thief," that sort of shit. That's really good stuff. So I'll talk a bit about Mac and her brother. I'll say some of this, especially in episode 1, it feels a bit mundane. Some of the drama, it's sort of like some of it isn't quite what I want in this sort of show, but there's only 1 or 2 scenes that feel a little bit filler and maybe don't add that much to what's going on. Generally speaking, I think it's satisfying, enjoyable stuff. But Mac goes to a brother who's now a doctor, and it's sort of funny how in this world, like, Mac sees that, I think because of how poor they were growing up and stuff, the Mac sees that as, oh, he's really rich and successful. So the scene where she goes to see him is like effective, because he just sees her and deadpans, because obviously he recognises her, but he's obviously phasing out because this is the future and everything else. But there's another twist in the tale, and the twist is that Mac actually died. She died when she was 16, so he says like 27 years ago now. So I don't know what game you're playing, he says, but you can't be my sister. And things sort of progress where he like gets a doctor or caseworker to like examine her, and she starts questioning him, but in the end, he says, "I'll take you home," but he does it. Obviously, he's not gonna like come clean. He pretends that she's some girl who he's helping out. She's just out of rehab, and because he's got a family and stuff, so he asks like the caseworker to like sort of destroy the record. But there are some fun, nice scenes with Mac and her brother. There's a good scene in the car, and it's sort of to break the tension, break the ice between them, because there's a lot of tension. So like he just goes a little bit goofy, and older brother, where he starts playing like this big rock track, and they start like playfully like messing around, like they do like sort of air drumming, and he's like, put your seatbelt on because this is gonna be like a bumpy ride. And there's little fun exchanges between them, but also they start catching up, and over time he realizes that she's telling the truth, because he tests a sample, and it comes back, as a match. And he obviously realises she is telling the truth, but he takes her home, and, she stays with him. Now, another thing I'll say, and I said this about Mac in the last review, is that she can be very hard to take. I think sometimes she's a little too aggressive and a little too, just a bit too mean-spirited, even though the circumstances and you can understand it. So in this episode, she does go out of her way at times to be like outright rude to like people who are just being nice to her and being helpful. So Dylan, I think her brother's name's Dylan, so his wife, for example, and then later on a scene in a restaurant with his two daughters, like she's outright sort of mean to them. Very aggressive, although one of them is being a bit sort of catty as well, but even so, she definitely goes overboard. So it's a fine line sometimes with Mac. Now, obviously at the same time, you've got like this from the old watch coming for her. But one interesting thing that comes out of this episode is that it appears as though KJ might have a crush on Mac. And this is something I never thought about. Obviously, there's been a couple of scenes with them, but I never got the impression it was anything other than them, them being friends, them hanging around together, or anything like that. But it's definitely hinted at in this one, because KJ comes to find Mac, and like she's gone for dinner with Dylan and like his two daughters, so she comes in and waits, and Dylan's wife just starts talking to her, and like just drops this little hint of her, looking for your girlfriend, because she says they had a fight, and then it's just when she uses the word girlfriend, like KJ sort of tenses up and gets a little bit awkward and protective. So like straightens her up, then she's just a female friend. So yeah, her reaction to that definitely makes me think that they are maybe together. Well, not together, but then she has feelings for Mac. And there's another scene later that sort of confirms this. So you get, as I said, the old watch coming for them. Like she finds them, or she goes to the house, and that's when KJ runs off on the motorbike again, and the woman makes like Dylan's wife tell her where they are, and you just get this big chase, and it's pretty satisfying, pretty tense to watch, as like KJ finds Mac at the restaurant and just says, "We've found a way to return home. You have to come with us now," and you have to. Mac doesn't want to leave her brother, but she says to her, if you want to keep them alive, it's for the best. You've got to come. So then they go along, they drive off on the motorbike, and you get this really intimate scene, this really intimate shot where Mac starts crying and getting emotional, and that's not something Mac does very often, and she's obviously upset at leaving her brother, and just them on the motorcycle. It's just a really intimate shot of them, almost like KJ's there for Mac, and Mac feels comfortable opening up. So I think there's a big hint then. Certainly KJ likes Mac, and possibly like mutual, like it's retracted, but some strong stuff with Mac and her brother, and they obviously make it in time to leave on the big robot thing. And once again, the suspense sort of builds as the old watchwoman drives in and is coming after them, but it's obviously too late that they escape, and that's pretty much the end of the episode, except she has to answer to one of her superiors, and that's sort of how the episode ends. But another thing which is pretty well done just with Mac and her brother is then he actually apologises at one point for the violence in their past, and not just from her father, but from him. He says, I shouldn't have bullied you in that way, and that set a bad example. And it definitely makes you more sympathetic with Mac, and shows you how hard she had it upbringing. But another good sort of moment is like the brother putting Mac right on when she makes quite a nasty like comment about like gay people, and he just puts her right and says you know you can't use those terms anymore, and Dad set a bad example. So once again showing a bit of a backstory than this stuff came from the father. You know, he let us down, but it's up to us now to set a better example. So I like that stuff. I thought that was some good character stuff and quite a well done scene. So some pretty good stuff with Mac in these 2 episodes. So yeah, that's the latest 2 or the next 2 episodes of Paper Girls 3 and 4. So still really solid stuff, some great ideas, some good character stuff, and I'm enjoying it a fair bit. And I know there's a few volumes of this comic, so I'm hoping that there'll be maybe more than one season at least. Fingers crossed that this is enough of a hit, then we get more than one season. That would be good. But solid stuff once again, and a good ending to episode 4. So that's Paper Girls. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll be back probably tomorrow with the next 2 episodes. Like and subscribe as always. You can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/borednow, and also share me out on social media. There's also a PayPal link on the main channel if you want to make a one-off donation. But thanks for listening, and goodbye.